I'm relying on the constitutional rights. I'm not just out here willfully nilly.
You are out here willy nilly because
No,
if
that's
you
not
were
true.
following, no, no, no.
But I'm not a person. I'm a human being. I have no contract with the Secretary of State. I'm traveling. I'm not driving.
I don't have to explain anything. It's not my job to explain it.
But you said
Listen,
you did explain, but you didn't.
but I said I allowed you to explain it.
That's kind of irrelevant.
Okay.
This sovereign citizen went up against a very sweet judge who actually tried to be patient with him until he started getting way too rude. And let me just tell you, she went off on this clown and made him instantly regret running his mouth. Like, at what point do these sovereign citizens realize they're not special here? The courts have never ruled in favor of a sovereign citizen, not once, but somehow they still think they're about to break the system with some nonsense they found on Facebook. Like, how does that make sense? But anyways, let's go ahead and dive in here and watch this sovereign citizen get completely humbled and destroyed for trying to argue against his traffic violations when he had no case to begin with.
The Supreme Court decided that a state cannot arbitrarily or erroneously convert a secure liberty, in this case, a secure right to travel, into a privilege, meaning we don't need license or insurance to travel throughout the land.
Okay, so this right to travel was about a welfare case, Mr. Williams, where she wanted to go to a different state, and they told her that because she didn't have established residency, in that she was going to be denied services.
Right, and that violated her.
Right, because it's talking
right
about services. She needed to take care of her child. She was 19 and she was pregnant.
But you avoiding the effects of the case. Even though that she filed a lawsuit against the state for denying her privileges, but the Supreme Court ruled that the Supreme Court ruled that that can't happen because that also be violating her right to travel throughout the states,
to receive the benefits that she needs in order to take care of herself and her child.
Yes, but you're missing the argument that the Supreme Court has stated. That'll be violating her First Amendment right: life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Travel. I don't want you to miss that fact. That's what they ruled.
They said the closest the Supreme Court has come to overturning Shapiro Thomas was in 1995 with Anderson versus Green, California Welfare and Interstate Code annotated section instituted a 1-year residency requirement for welfare aid, violating Shapiro versus Thompson. Both lower courts in California affirmed that violated Shapiro versus Thompson and granted an injunction. I'm sorry. Due to the procedural issue, California's residency requirement never went into effect, creating no justifiable controversy action and no actual issuance for the court to rule on. Whether they receive a waiver from the Secretary of Health or Human Services to set aside Shapiro versus Thompson, making the residency requirement pseudo-legal, the waiver was challenged again, and it's holding that the state court and the Secretary of HHS had not adequately considered public comment on the issues. This is about welfare. Yeah, this is about the welfare system and the ability for people. You cannot stop people from traveling. I don't see anything in here about a driver's license.
Look, the decision of the court.
Right, she has the right to go places.
Look, the court reaffirmed the right to travel under the 14th Amendment Privilege and Immunities Clause in Suez versus Roe. So they conferred it to another case. But the conclusion of the case like that would be violating her right to travel. It have something to do with the welfare, but it's violating her right to travel.
It's all about that. Because the reason why we can't prohibit her from being able to travel or to go to another state is because then they're saying once she gets to that state, she has to establish some type of residency. And what they're saying is that if she doesn't have that residency, she wouldn't get the services needed. And so they're saying you can't say, oh, you can't go to this state and not get the stuff that you need to take care of yourself and your family just because you're not. I can't stop her. I can't say you can't move to this state and then we're going to block everything. I can't do that. Right. This is not about a license.
Which will violate the right to travel. That was
No.
the decision of the court. I'm not making that up.
You might not be making it up, but this dude definitely spent way too much time parked in front of a TV as a kid. Like, how do you not understand that Shapiro versus Thomas had nothing to do with violating your right to travel? That case was simply about whether states could deny welfare benefits to new residents who hadn't lived there for a certain amount of time. The Supreme Court actually said that that was unconstitutional because it punished people for moving between states, which actually does violate the right to travel. But this dude, he somehow twisted that into, well, since a 19-year-old in that case was allowed to move states, that means I can drive without a license. Like, what? It just makes no sense. My guy, moving to a new state and whipping around in a car with no license are not the same thing. It's literally like saying, since I have the right to buy a house, I also have the right to build one in the middle of a highway. I just feel so bad for the judge at this point. I mean, just the way she's talking to him, you could just hear the exhaustion in her voice.
You aren't, but you're not understanding what their decision was based on. Yes, you have the right to travel, but this is concerning services.
So if I chose to carry a weapon, I will be bearing arms.
If you
But
chose to
y'all
carry a
call it
weapon in the state of in Illinois, that's an automatic. You're not allowed to carry weapons at all in the state of Illinois unless you're a law enforcement officer.
I'm talking
So
about
if you
state of
traveled
Michigan.
over the state lines and you went to Illinois and you tried to carry a gun, they would tell you no.
But that's irrelevant, Your Honor. We're talking about the state of Michigan. I have a right to bear arms, but you will call it receiving a
Exactly.
facility. But the
Well,
Constitution of Michigan states that I can bear arms, but we're
because
making
once
something
again, and
else.
we had this conversation already, the states can make stuff more, the localities can make stuff, they can, and it's a state law anyways, but they can be harsher than the US Constitution, but they can do something that would take away from the US Constitution. So they're not taking away your right to bear arms, they're just putting parameters around that right.
That's kind of irrelevant.
Okay.
And like Murdoch versus Pennsylvania, say no state can convert a secure liberty into a privilege. Our secure liberty, First Amendment is the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness.
Mm-hmm.
Right to travel throughout the United States of America. I'm relying on the constitutional rights. I'm not just out here willfully nilly, like United States versus Bishop. United States versus Bishop.
But you are, because you're only taking the part that you want to be applied to you. So you are out here willy-nilly. Because if you were following, if you were following everything, you would want to follow everything and all the rules that were put into place. So all that
no, I'm following laws, not
following what you want to follow. And that's no. We talked about how that leads to anarchy. People can't do whatever they want to do. They say that I can follow only this. That's no. That's like me coming one day and saying, I want to practice law and I want to be a judge, and I haven't gone through any of the things to become a judge. That's not how it works.
I see how you
put it. I can't sit up there with a fake P number. They wouldn't let me do that.
I see how you put it, but that's not true. What about Title 18 USC Section 241?
Mr. Williams, do you want a trial on Monday or not? You can't argue this stuff to the jury.
Yeah, I want to go to trial, but I can't.
Okay. You can't argue this stuff to the jury. You can argue that maybe something, making sure that they didn't check the things, like you have to follow the law. I have to treat you as an attorney in that place on Monday. So I have to treat that you know how to practice and go about the way of law. And these different things, like you can't just give the jury cases and stuff like that. That's not what it's going to be about. And you'll most likely end up with objections that I'll have to sustain, because it's going to be talking about the facts of these particular cases where the officers came today. Attorney Mason will make the argument for, and officers came to testify about.
What are they testifying about?
About these different stops.
Which is unlawful.
Different tickets. Okay. Well, I gave you plenty of time to write a motion about unlawful, and you did not want to.
So now we're here. I gave you affidavits stating the facts, what you needed, and
exactly. And the facts are to be argued before a jury. If they differ from these facts that on the tickets, we're here to talk about these tickets. I've already made my ruling long ago that they had the right to stop.
This sovereign citizen is actually not the worst one I've ever seen, if I'm being honest. Don't get me wrong, guys. He's definitely still a clown, but he's really not that bad. I mean, most of these guys just roll in yelling, "No jurisdiction," Like it's some sort of magic spell or something. And then they play dumb when the judge asks them the most basic questions. But at least this dude is trying to prove his point with actual cases, even though it is not working at all here. Like, I will give this guy props for the effort, but on the other side of this, oh man, he is going to get absolutely grilled in his jury trial. I mean, this sovereign citizen really thinks picking random lines from random cases and just mashing them together is going to be a solid argument. Like some kind of legal Frankenstein's monster. Yeah, good luck with that, buddy. But hey guys, let me know what you think of this sovereign citizen so far. I don't think he's too bad, but honestly, he's still an idiot, but like, I don't know. We've had a lot worse on the channel so far. But let me know what you guys think about him.
And that these tickets are the tickets for which they wrote them for.
Yes, they have a right to stop persons, but I'm not a person. I'm a human being. I have no contract with the Secretary of State. I'm traveling. I'm not driving. I'm not driving for gain or profit. I'm going to point A to point B, not violating nobody's rights. I'm just traveling freely, like I exercise my constitutional rights. Like Title 18 USC, Section 241. Can you look that up?
I let you have a whole hour of time to discuss all of these previously, Mr. Williams. We talked about all of these, and at the end, I made the ruling that the court did have jurisdiction and that the officers could write tickets.
You haven't explained jurisdiction.
I don't have to explain anything. It's not my job to explain it.
But you said you did explain, but you didn't.
But I said I allowed you to explain it. Do you need to put it up on YouTube?
But the burden is on the prosecutor.
Right, not on me. I'm the court. I just called laws and strikes.
And the prosecutor cannot state how she has jurisdiction.
Okay, Attorney Mason, do you want to state how you have jurisdiction over these matters?
Statute provides us with the jurisdiction over this matter. The statutes and the laws of the court provide us the jurisdiction over these matters.
That's subject.
I am empowered by the state. I am empowered by my bar card, which has been submitted to the state of Michigan. I'm empowered by the city of Detroit.
But she's still not stating. I got to object to that because she's not stating how she has jurisdiction over.
She's telling you it's by the statutes. The statutes that were given.
Statutes is not law.
Okay.
I'm obeying by the law.
So you want us to call them laws? Laws are statutes. They're the same thing. It's just a fancy way of saying laws. Statutes are just a fancy way of saying laws.
Statutes are persuasive. Laws are mandatory.
These are laws. Okay, statutes are laws. That's just a fancy way of saying laws.
Yeah, they derive from the law.
At this point, Your Honor, I'm going to
rules and regulations.
I'm going to just make a motion that these matters have already been resolved. That the court has previously stated that the trial was set forth regarding the facts of the incidents that have arisen, and that the witnesses will testify only to the facts regarding the tickets.
What are the facts?
The facts are the things on the ticket. So you have to research the law and find out exactly what each one is to show.
According to Michigan Vehicle Code 257-744A, police officers knowingly.
Okay.
I travel with a passport. My ID been canceled since 2018, so none of that is true.
Just because you cancel your ID, and this is the last argument for today, and then we're just gonna have trial on Monday. Just because you cancel your ID doesn't mean now you have the right to drive in the state of Michigan. That's not the law of this state. When you avail yourselves of the roads, the lights, the streets, the anything. Once you take part on those items, then you automatically allow yourself to avail yourself to any laws that are being taken place, any statutes that are being taken place, any codes that are taking place. All of those now become active, whether you want them to or not.
Throw your predictions down below in the comments for Monday when he has his jury trial, because I just have a gut feeling this clown is going to be paying up in court fees and maybe even spending some time in jail for wasting everybody's time. Like, you could just tell the judge is fed up, the prosecutors are done, and the jury, oh my goodness, I just can't wait for it. They are about to have a field day picking apart his nonsense. I mean, especially in Michigan. I mean, I bet the citizens up there in Michigan are just fuming from these people. Like, imagine you're a Michigan resident and you just get pulled over for a speeding ticket. And while you're waiting on the docket, you get a sovereign citizen in front of you and they're just wasting so much time and you gotta be back to work. Like, it would just be so annoying. But yeah, like I said, I just don't see this ending well for this guy. And on another note, like, especially in Michigan, this whole sovereign citizen thing needs to be taken way more seriously. It's not just funny. I mean, these people are literally wasting the court's time, draining taxpayer money, and clogging up the legal system with absolute nonsense. Like, obviously, judges have real cases to deal with, actual crimes, and people fighting for their rights, and instead we have these clowns here who saw something on Facebook and now they want to try their luck. It's just a whole tornado, and honestly, I think it goes under the radar for a lot of people who don't know about this stuff. But if I had to guess, they would probably be draining thousands upon thousands of dollars on taxpayer money with this nonsense, and obviously, people will not be too happy about that. Let me know if you guys think courts need to crack down harder on these sovereign citizens, or is it just something we have to deal with? There's two sides to it. I mean, I don't want to be too harsh on them, I don't know. A lot of people in my comments do hate on me for that, I won't lie, but let me know what you guys think below. Thank you guys for watching, and take care.